AITA for exposing my wife's secret money transfer after she left me for a younger man? I'm Albert, 44, and after almost 18 years of marriage, I knew the exact sound my wife made when she was lying. Not the big lies. Those came later. I mean the small ones, like when Melissa said she was just tired while smiling at her phone over cold takeout, or when she started leaving her wedding ring in the little ceramic bowl by the sink and pretending she forgot it after washing dishes. We had a normal marriage, at least I thought we did. Not perfect. Not some movie version where people slow dance in the kitchen every night and never argue about bills or laundry or whose turn it is to call the plumber. We had routines. A joint checking account. A joint savings account. Automatic mortgage payments. Grocery lists stuck to the fridge with a magnet shaped like a lemon. 2 favorite coffee mugs that had somehow survived almost 18 years of being dropped, washed, and shoved into the wrong cabinet. I thought that counted for something. Melissa used to say she liked that I was steady. Then, somewhere along the way, steady became predictable. Predictable became boring. Boring became the word she used when she wanted to hurt me without sounding cruel. "You're safe, Albert," she told me one night while we ate takeout at the kitchen island. Sometimes safe feels like a cage. I remember looking down at the plastic container of lo mein between us, wondering when our marriage had turned into something she described like a sentence she had been forced to serve. I didn't snap back. I didn't ask if she had found someone unsafe to make her feel alive. I just said, "I didn't know you felt trapped." She gave me this sad little smile that didn't reach her eyes. That's the problem. You don't know a lot of things. At first, I did what a lot of husbands probably do when they feel their wife pulling away but don't want to admit how bad it is. I made excuses for her. She was tired. She was unhappy. We had been together a long time. Maybe she needed space. Maybe we both did. Then the details started stacking up. Her phone password changed. She started turning the screen down when she left the room. She laughed at texts in a way she hadn't laughed with me in months, then acted annoyed if I looked over. She bought new perfume and said it was on sale. She came home late and said she had gone for a drive because she needed air. She stopped wearing her ring to run errands, then to dinner with friends, then sometimes not at all. The ring bowl by the sink became a little shrine to everything she didn't want to say. But the part that bothered me most wasn't the phone. It was the performance. Around family, Melissa became soft and wounded. She would lean back from the table, sigh, and say things like, "Albert is a good person. He just doesn't really see me anymore." The first time she said it, her mother Janet reached across the table and squeezed her hand like Melissa had survived something. Her father David stared down at his plate. Our mutual friend Dana gave me that awkward half-look people give when they think they just learned something private and don't know whether to pity you or judge you. I sat there with my fork in my hand, completely blindsided. After everyone left, I asked Melissa, "Do you really think I don't see you?" She was loading plates into the dishwasher. She didn't look at me. "I think you see what's convenient." That's not an answer. She pushed the rack in too hard and stood up. "See? This is what I mean. Everything becomes a cross-examination." I let it go, not because I agreed, but because I could feel the trap forming. If I pushed, I was controlling. If I got upset, I was proving her point. If I stayed quiet, I was cold. So I stayed quiet and started paying attention. The money was what changed everything. We had always been open with finances. Not perfect, but open. We both had access to the accounts. The mortgage came out automatically. Utilities, insurance, groceries, all of it moved in a pattern I could recognize without even opening the bank app most months. Then there were cash withdrawals. Not huge at first. 100 here, 200 there. Then 400 in a week where she had also used the debit card for groceries, gas, and a salon appointment. When I asked, she rolled her eyes. "It's just personal expenses. Don't start acting like my father." I'm asking because it's our account. And I'm telling you I'm allowed to spend money without reporting every dollar. There it was again. The setup. I was not asking about every dollar. I was asking why money was disappearing in odd amounts while she was suddenly guarding her phone like it held state secrets. Then came the hotel charge. It showed up on a credit card alert while I was at the kitchen table paying the water bill. One night. Not outrageous, not some luxury resort charge. Just enough to make my stomach tighten. I waited until she came home. "There's a hotel charge on the card," I said. She stopped near the doorway, purse still on her shoulder. For half a second, her face went blank. Then she frowned like she was offended by the inconvenience. That must be a billing mistake. For a hotel neither of us stayed at? I don't know, Albert. Call the card company if you're so worried. Were you there? She laughed once. Not because it was funny, because she needed it to sound ridiculous. You hear yourself, right? I did hear myself. I sounded like a husband trying not to say what he already suspected. She went upstairs after that. I stayed in the kitchen and opened the credit card app. I downloaded the statement as a PDF. I saved it in a folder on my laptop with the date in the file name. That was the first file. It was not the last. After that, Melissa began asking strange questions about things she had never cared about before. How much was left in savings after the roof repair? How much of the mortgage payment went to escrow? Did the automatic payment pull from checking or savings first if checking was low? Could one person remove money from the joint savings without the other approving it? She made the questions sound casual, usually while doing something else. Folding laundry, brushing her hair in the hallway mirror, standing at the fridge pretending to look for yogurt. One night, while she was in the shower, her phone buzzed on the nightstand. It was face up for once. I didn't pick it up. I didn't unlock it. I didn't have to. The preview said, Ryan, he won't fight you. Men like him just absorb the loss. I stood there so still the house seemed louder around me. Water running through the pipes. The bathroom fan humming. The soft thud of a shampoo bottle being set down in the shower. Ryan. Not a feeling. Not loneliness. Not a rough patch. A person. And not just a person. Someone who apparently knew enough about me to call me the kind of man who would absorb the loss. My first instinct was ugly. I wanted to walk into the bathroom, hold up the phone, and demand the truth through the shower curtain. I wanted to say his name and watch her face break. I wanted one clean, loud moment where she couldn't pretend anymore. Instead, I left the bedroom, went downstairs, and called my brother Mark from the back porch. He picked up on the third ring. What's wrong? I didn't even try to sound normal. I think Melissa is having an affair, and I think she's planning to move money. He was quiet for a second. Mark is 2 years older than me and has the kind of bluntness that either saves you or makes you want to hang up on him. That night it saved me. Do not confront her tonight, he said. You don't even know what I saw. I know enough. Don't give her any ammunition. Give your lawyer a timeline. I don't have a lawyer. Then get one. Tomorrow. And until then, don't text anything stupid. Don't yell. Don't threaten. Don't call the guy. Don't touch her phone. Screenshots of what you can legally access. Bank statements, dates, receipts. You hear me. I sat down on the porch step. She thinks I'm just going to take it. Then let her keep thinking that. That was the moment I stopped trying to save the version of my marriage that only existed in my head. The next morning, I called a divorce lawyer. I didn't walk into that office looking for revenge. I walked in embarrassed, angry, and strangely numb. I brought printed bank statements, the credit card charge, notes I had written down from memory, and a list of accounts. The lawyer listened without much expression, which I appreciated. She didn't gasp. She didn't tell me she was sorry every 30 seconds. She asked specific questions. Was the savings account joint? Yes. Were the credit cards joint? Some were. Was my paycheck direct deposited into the joint checking account? Yes. Had Melissa already transferred money? Not yet, as far as I knew. Did I have proof of an affair? Nothing illegal. No recordings. No hacked messages. Just the hotel charge, the pattern, and the text preview I saw on a phone that was visible to me. She nodded and tapped her pen once against the legal pad. Your goal is not revenge, she said. Your goal is not letting her create facts before the court sees the truth. That sentence stayed with me. She told me what I could do and what I should not do. I could redirect my future direct deposit into an individual account. I could keep paying necessary household bills from appropriate funds and keep records. I could notify banks through proper channels about concerns with new joint debt. I could request that joint credit cards be closed to new charges or frozen, depending on the bank's process. I could send written notice that no new joint debt should be created without written agreement. What I could not do was secretly empty accounts because I was angry. I could not hide marital money. I could not play games and expect it not to backfire. So I did it the boring way. The way Melissa and Ryan apparently thought I was too dull to understand. I changed my direct deposit to an individual account. I documented the date. I kept paying my share of household obligations. I downloaded account statements as PDFs and saved them with timestamps. I turned on bank alerts for transfers over a certain amount. I called the credit card companies and followed the procedure to close or freeze joint cards to new charges where possible. I sent Melissa one short email. Melissa, given the current uncertainty around our finances, I do not agree to any new joint debt. Any necessary household expenses can be discussed in writing. I will continue to preserve records and pay appropriate obligations. Albert. She texted me less than 5 minutes later. Are you serious right now? I didn't answer. Then, this is exactly what I mean by controlling. I didn't answer that either. Then, you don't get to financially trap me because you're insecure. I typed 3 different responses and deleted all of them. Mark texted me that afternoon without me even messaging him first. Do not reply unless necessary. Dates, not feelings. So I gave the lawyer dates. Melissa became colder after that. Not openly hostile, just sharpened. She started sleeping on the edge of the bed like my breathing annoyed her. She deleted shared calendar events, including one labeled dinner, anniversary, but I had already taken screenshots. She carried overnight bags out through the side door twice before telling Janet she had nowhere safe to go if things got worse. The small home security camera by the garage caught the bags clearly. I did not make a big deal out of it. I saved the clips. Then, on a Thursday afternoon, my phone buzzed with a bank alert. Large transfer from joint savings. I was sitting in my car outside the grocery store when I saw it. For a moment, the world narrowed down to the screen in my hand. Melissa had moved a large amount from our joint savings into an account in her name. Not a few $1,000s. Not grocery money. A chunk of what we had built over years of automatic transfers, skipped vacations, and saying, maybe next year, to things we wanted. A minute later, she texted me. I took my half because I'm done letting you hold my life hostage. I stared at that sentence for a long time. Not because I didn't know what to do. Because 3 weeks earlier, that sentence would have destroyed me. It would have made me call her, beg her to explain, ask what I had done so wrong that she needed to turn our marriage into a hostage situation. Now it was evidence. I screenshotted the alert. I downloaded the updated balance. I saved her text. I forwarded everything to my lawyer. Then I went inside the grocery store and bought paper towels, eggs, coffee, and the brand of cereal Melissa liked, even though I knew she probably wasn't coming home for breakfast. That's the thing people don't tell you about betrayal. It doesn't happen in dramatic lighting. It happens while you're standing in aisle 7 trying to remember whether you're out of dish soap. The anniversary dinner was 2 days later. I didn't want to go. Melissa insisted. It would look strange if we canceled, she said while putting on earrings in the hallway mirror. I looked at her reflection. To who? My parents. Your brother. Dana. Everyone. Maybe we should tell them we're having problems. She adjusted one earring and gave me a look I couldn't read. I think honesty is important. That almost made me laugh. The restaurant was warm and too loud. The kind of place where every table sounded like a family celebrating something. Janet hugged Melissa for too long when we arrived. David shook my hand and wouldn't quite meet my eyes. Mark was already there, sitting back in his chair, watching everything. Dana waved too brightly. The meal started painfully normal. Someone asked about the food. Someone complained about traffic. Janet told a story she had already told 2 times before. Melissa sat beside me, smiling politely, her hand resting near her wine glass. No ring. I noticed Mark notice. Halfway through dinner, after the plates were cleared and before dessert came, Melissa tapped her spoon against her water glass. It wasn't loud. It didn't need to be. Everyone looked at her. She took a breath that sounded rehearsed. I need to say something, and I'm sorry for doing this tonight, but I can't keep pretending. My stomach went cold. Janet whispered, honey. Melissa's eyes filled with tears so quickly I wondered if she had practiced that too. I have been unhappy for a long time. I've tried to make this marriage work, but I have felt invisible. I have felt controlled. I have felt like I was disappearing into a life that Albert decided for both of us. Dana's eyes flicked to me. David stared at the table. I didn't move. Melissa continued, voice trembling just enough. I've met someone. His name is Ryan. He makes me remember who I was before I became someone's obligation. Janet covered her mouth. Mark's jaw tightened. Melissa turned slightly toward me, like she wanted the whole table to see her bravery. I'm leaving. And before anyone asks, I already moved my half of the savings because I need a clean start. I won't apologize for choosing happiness. There it was. Not just the affair, The speech. The money. The audience. She looked at me like she expected me to break. I picked up my water glass, took a sip, and set it back down. My voice came out steadier than I felt. Are you sure you want to say all of that in front of witnesses? Melissa blinked. Excuse me. I'm not going to argue with a speech you rehearsed. I'm only going to ask whether you want witnesses to it. Janet snapped. Albert, don't make this uglier than it has to be. I'm not. Melissa's face hardened. See? This is what he does. He makes everything sound like a threat. I looked at her. You may want to look at what that transfer proves. For the first time that night, her confidence slipped. Only for a second. Then she gave a small laugh. It proves I finally stopped letting you control me. I nodded once. Okay. That was all I said. The rest of dinner collapsed into whispers and half-finished sentences. Janet cried. David asked for the check, even though we had barely touched dessert. Dana kept looking between me and Melissa like she wanted the camera angle to change so she could understand the scene better. In the parking lot, Melissa hissed at me. You humiliated me. I looked around at the families walking to their cars, the host holding the restaurant door, the wet shine of the pavement under the lights. You announced your affair at our anniversary dinner. You forced me to do it this way. No, I said. I really didn't. She got into Janet and David's car instead of mine. Mark drove me home. For 10 minutes, neither of us spoke. Then he said, You did good. I don't feel good. You're not supposed to. You're supposed to be smart. By the time I got home, the family group chat was burning. Janet wrote first. Albert, I know you are hurt, but please let my daughter leave with dignity. Don't punish her for being honest. Dana followed. I'm confused about the money thing. Melissa said you cut her off, and she had to protect herself? Then one of Melissa's cousins chimed in with something about emotional neglect, and someone else sent a long message about how divorce didn't have to be cruel. I sat at the kitchen table with the lights off, reading messages from people who had no idea they had been handed a script. My thumbs hovered over the screen. I wanted to send everything. The bank alert. The hotel receipt. Ryan's line about men like me absorbing the loss. Melissa's text saying she took her half. The screenshots of deleted calendar events. All of it. Instead, I sent one message. I have not cut Melissa off. I have documented what she removed. This will be handled legally. Then I muted the chat. The next morning, my lawyer filed. Divorce petition. Request for temporary financial orders. Disclosure of transferred marital funds. Preservation of financial records. Review of spending that might be considered improper use of marital assets. It wasn't glamorous. It wasn't some revenge montage. It was emails, scanned documents, bank statements, and me sitting at my dining table signing forms with a pen that kept skipping. Melissa called me 6 times that afternoon. I let every call go to voicemail. The first voicemail was angry. You had no right to drag lawyers into money that was already mine. The second was sharper. You are proving everything I said about you. The third was quieter. Albert, call me. This is getting out of hand. I forwarded the voicemails to my lawyer and replied once by email. Please direct financial and legal issues through counsel. Necessary household matters can be discussed in writing. She texted back. You're enjoying this because you finally get to control the ending. I didn't respond. That was the hardest part, honestly. Not the filing. Not the bank calls. Not even the dinner. The hardest part was not defending myself to the woman who had spent weeks building a version of me that made her choices look noble. A few days later, Melissa learned the money was not invisible just because she had moved it. Her lawyer, I assume, explained disclosure. Her tone changed fast. She sent me a message late one night. You're making this look like theft. I replied the next morning. I am providing records of what happened. She wrote. I took what I needed because you would have trapped me. I stared at that one for a while before sending it to my lawyer too. Ryan started fading around the same time. I only know that because Melissa, who was losing her grip on the story, got sloppy. A printed batch of messages came later through the legal process, but even before that, I could see the shift in her. She went from defiant to distracted. She stood in the kitchen one afternoon, typing hard into her phone, then slammed it face down on the counter. Problem? I asked. She glared at me. Don't pretend you care. I don't pretend well. She grabbed her keys and left. Later, in the messages that came out, I saw what had happened. Ryan, back when he thought I would fold, had been full of confidence. He's not going to do anything. Guys like that avoid conflict. You deserve a clean break, not permission. Take what you can before he wakes up. Then, after the lawyer letters started, his tone changed. Maybe handle the legal stuff before we make big plans. I didn't ask to be dragged into court documents. We should slow down until things settle. There was no dramatic breakup text. No confession. No villain speech. Just a man slowly backing away from a woman whose stolen clean start had turned into traceable evidence. Melissa demanded a family meeting 2 weeks after the anniversary dinner. She didn't ask. She informed me. You owe me the chance to explain what you're doing to me. I almost ignored it. Then Janet called. Albert, she said, voice tight. This has gone too far. What has? Melissa is devastated. She says you're freezing her out. She says she can't access money, that you're trying to bury her legally, that you're telling people she stole from you. I haven't told people anything beyond what I put in the chat. Then come say that. Sit down with us. Don't make this uglier. There was that phrase again. Don't make this uglier. As if I had designed the ugliness instead of refusing to pay for it. I agreed on one condition. Mark came with me. The dinner was at Janet and David's house. I brought a folder. Not a dramatic leather briefcase. Not some movie prop. Just a plain folder with printed statements, screenshots, receipts, transfer records, and a timeline my lawyer had already reviewed. I wasn't there to negotiate the divorce. I wasn't there to threaten anyone. I was there because Melissa had lied to these people using my silence as a blank space. Mark drove us. Before we got out of the car, he looked at the folder in my lap. Say less than you want to. I know. No, you don't. You think you do. Then someone cries, and you start explaining. Don't. Let the paper talk. Inside, the table was set like a normal family dinner, which made the whole thing worse. Water glasses, cloth napkins, a casserole dish in the center no one was going to enjoy. David sat at the far end, already uncomfortable. Dana was there too, holding her phone like she regretted coming but didn't want to miss anything. Melissa sat beside Janet. Her eyes were red, but her posture was straight. Ryan was on speakerphone at first, which I found almost funny. Almost. Melissa started before I even sat fully down. I asked everyone here because I'm tired of being treated like I did something monstrous when all I did was choose myself. Mark's foot shifted under the table, a silent warning. I sat back. Melissa looked around the room, gathering sympathy. Albert has always controlled things quietly. That's what people don't understand. He doesn't scream. He doesn't throw things. He just makes sure you know he has the power. Money, bills, the house, the accounts. And now he's using lawyers to punish me for wanting a life. Janet reached for her hand. Honey, breathe. Melissa's voice cracked. He wants me humiliated because I finally chose love. Ryan's voice came through the phone, casual but careful. Nobody should be trapped financially, man. That was when I opened the folder. The small sound of paper against the table cut through the room better than yelling ever could. I placed the first page in the center. This is the joint savings balance 3 weeks before the anniversary dinner. Melissa went still. I placed the second page beside it. This is the transfer Melissa made from joint savings into her individual account 2 days before the dinner. Janet frowned. She said she took her half because you cut her off. I had not cut her off. My paycheck had been redirected after legal advice, but household bills were still being paid. No court order existed yet. No one had denied her access to necessary funds. Melissa snapped, "You're twisting it." I looked at her. Then let's keep going. I placed her text message on the table. I took my half because I'm done letting you hold my life hostage. Dana leaned forward, then leaned back again. I placed the hotel charge next. This is the hotel charge Melissa called a billing mistake. Melissa's face flushed. That has nothing to do with this. It has to do with marital funds being used while you were telling people I was imagining things. Ryan's voice came through the phone. I'm not sure why my personal. I put down the Zelle payments. Vague labels. Weekend. For room. Later. Then I placed the printed messages between Melissa and Ryan in the center of the table. I didn't read all of them out loud. I didn't need to. David picked up the page closest to him. His expression changed before he said anything. Melissa, he said slowly, are these messages real? She didn't answer. Janet looked at him, then at the paper, then at Melissa. What messages? David read one line, his voice flat. Take what you can before he wakes up. The room went silent. Ryan's speakerphone made a tiny crackling sound, like even the phone wanted to disappear. Melissa reached for the paper. I pulled it back before she could grab it. Don't, I said. Her eyes flashed. You printed private messages? They were produced through the legal process. And you brought these people into our divorce by telling them I was financially abusing you. I was scared. You were planning. She shook her head hard. You don't get to punish me for wanting to feel alive. No, Melissa. Leaving was your choice. Lying, moving the money, and trying to make me pay for your exit was the part one refused to finance. Janet started crying again, but it was different this time. Not protective crying. Shocked crying. Dana whispered, I didn't know there was money moved before the dinner. I looked at her. I know you didn't. That's why I didn't respond to the group chat the way I wanted to. David put the page down carefully, like it was dirty. Melissa, he said, tell me those aren't yours. Melissa looked at him, then at her mother, then at the phone. Ryan, she said. There was a pause. Then Ryan cleared his throat. I didn't sign up to be part of your divorce case. The call ended. No goodbye, no explanation, just the dead screen on the table. That was the first time Melissa looked truly afraid. Not sad, not angry, afraid. Because for weeks, she had believed the story was hers to tell. I was the cold husband. Ryan was the brave new love. The money was her half. The dinner was her liberation. The group chat was her jury. But documents do not care about tone. For once, neither did I. The fallout wasn't instant and clean. Real life never is. Janet didn't stand up and apologize with some big speech. She just stopped defending Melissa in the room. David barely spoke after that. Dana left early and texted me later. I'm sorry. I repeated things I didn't understand. I appreciated it, but I didn't save it in the same folder. Some things don't need to become evidence. Melissa tried to talk to me in the driveway before Mark and I left. You wanted this, she said. I was tired. So tired my bones felt heavy. No, I wanted you to tell the truth before I had to. You made me look horrible. You did that part. She wiped at her face, angry that she was crying. You're so cold. That one almost got me. Because I wasn't cold. I was shaking inside. I had sat at a dinner table and watched people I had known for years look at my wife like they didn't recognize her. I had watched the woman I loved reach for lies the way a drowning person reaches for air. Nothing about it felt good, but I knew what she wanted. She wanted my pain to become softness. She wanted me to comfort her for the consequences of hurting me. So I said, I loved you. That's why this hurt. But I'm not confusing pain with permission. Mark and I drove away. In mediation, nobody cared about the emotional speeches. That surprised Melissa. She tried to explain that the marriage had been dead, that she had felt lonely, that Ryan had given her courage, that she had only taken what she believed she deserved. The mediator listened, then looked down at the documents. The issue is not that you left, she said. The issue is how the money was moved and used. That sentence did more damage to Melissa's fantasy than anything I could have said. The transferred funds had to be disclosed. The affair-related spending did not magically send Melissa to jail or make a court hand me everything, because life does not work like a revenge fantasy. But it mattered. The hotel charges mattered. The payments mattered. The timing mattered. Her messages mattered. The fact that she had moved money right before publicly accusing me of financial control mattered. It all became part of the settlement pressure. She lost the clean advantage she thought she had created. Some spending was counted against her side. The transferred money had to be accounted for. The joint debt issue was locked down before it could turn into a bigger disaster. I did not walk away with everything. I walked away with enough, and more importantly, I did not walk away carrying the bills for her lie. Ryan disappeared almost completely. From what I heard through the legal noise and the few mutual people I hadn't muted, he became busy, then overwhelmed. Then he needed space. Funny how quickly romance needs space when bank statements and lawyers enter the room. Melissa tried anger first, then pity, then nostalgia. The nostalgia was the hardest. One evening, she came by to pick up some boxes. I had left them near the front door, but she wandered into the kitchen like she still belonged there in the old way. The wedding photo that used to sit on the counter had been turned face down. I hadn't done it dramatically. I just couldn't keep looking at two people who no longer existed. She noticed. That picture was always your favorite, she said softly. I didn't answer. She picked up one of the old coffee mugs from the drying rack. Hers, chipped near the handle. We had good years, she said. We did. She looked at me like that gave her an opening. I made mistakes because I felt invisible. I leaned against the counter. The kitchen smelled like coffee and cardboard boxes. You told people I trapped you. I was scared. You moved our savings. I thought you'd make it impossible for me to leave. You planned it with him. She flinched. For a second, she looked like the Melissa I had married. Not younger, not innocent, just familiar. That was worse, somehow. Anger is easy to stand against. Familiarity sneaks under the door. She set the mug down. Can we slow down? She asked. Not stop. Just slow down. We don't have to be enemies. We were never enemies. Then why does it feel like you're treating me like one? Because you treated me like an obstacle. Her mouth trembled. I missed feeling wanted. I missed you before you left, I said. I'm not going to miss being used. She cried then. Quietly, not the dinner table kind. I believed those tears more than the others, which did not change anything. I walked her boxes to the door. I did not hug her. I did not ask if she was okay. I did not offer to talk later. When she left, I stood in the kitchen for a long time with my hand on the back of a chair, letting the house be silent. The divorce was finalized months later. It was fair, not magical. I didn't get a trophy for being betrayed. She didn't lose everything because she had an affair, but she also didn't get to drain our savings, rewrite the story, and leave me smiling politely while I paid for the wreckage. The money she moved was accounted for. The spending she tried to bury was part of the negotiation. The joint credit mess she could have created never got the chance to happen. I kept my financial footing. I kept my house obligations manageable. I kept my name from becoming shorthand for the villain she needed me to be. Janet sent me a message after everything was signed. I'm sorry I believed it the way she told it. I wrote back. Thank you. That was all. David called once. He didn't say much. David never said much. You handled yourself better than I would have, he told me. I said, I don't know about that. No, he said. You did. Dana never rejoined the group chat. I never asked why. Melissa and I only communicate when necessary now. Short messages. Practical things. No late-night emotional autopsies. No revisiting who failed who first. No dramatic closure dinner. Some nights, I still grieve the marriage. I grieve the woman who used to fall asleep during movies and deny it with her eyes closed. I grieve Sunday mornings when we drank coffee from chipped mugs and made ordinary plans. I grieve the version of us that probably ended long before I admitted it. But I do not grieve the woman who sat at our anniversary dinner and tried to turn betrayal into bravery. I do not grieve the woman who moved our money and called it freedom. I do not grieve being useful to someone who had already stopped loving me. People have asked if I regret exposing her in front of her family. The honest answer is no. I didn't expose her because she left. She was allowed to leave. She was allowed to be unhappy. She was allowed to want a different life, even if it broke my heart. But she was not allowed to make me finance the lie. She was not allowed to empty our savings, accuse me of abuse, and let people pressure me into silence because the truth made her uncomfortable. I didn't freeze her new life. I stopped funding it. And when she tried to turn me into the villain at a table full of witnesses, I simply handed everyone the receipts. If you like the stories, don't forget to leave a comment and support the channel by subscribing. See you in the upcoming stories.